weird pastimes for the Victorians. We've done a few Victorian videos already, so why not add another one? Now, we all know the Victorians like their hot houses and gardens, but ferns were not native here, so it seemed a fun and thrilling hobby to go fern hunting. It seems daft these days, I suppose, but I suppose it's not really any different to going hunting for new species that we don't know about at the moment. Really? By 1855, it was such a crazy craze that it saw people travelling all over Europe and Asia, to the point where some of these ferns ended up being extinct in their actual natural habitat. Theatre of Shadows. Now, we all remember making shadow puppets with our hands when we were children, and some of us maybe a little bit older doing it. But this was a little bit more glamorous than the old white sheet and torch and hands. One such show was in Paris in 1887, created by Théâtre d'Ombre. He employed a choir of 20 with orchestra and Japanese-style puppets. He produced many a shadow play. Apparently he did almost 40 in just 10 years. That's a lot of shadow puppetry. Divination. Now, divination is one of those things that really does kind of, you either believe it or you don't. Well, there's the normal way we've heard of, palm reading, crystal balls, tea leaves, all to find out their future. But there was more. Candles, playing cards, tarot cards, apples, dice. It was extremely popular with ladies wanting to know who their future husband was going to be. Here's a mouthful for you. Anthropomorphic taxidermy. Now I have trouble saying that at the best of times. Anthropomorphic. It's quite a funky word. This is the collection of taxidermy items, normally putting animals into human situations, like kittens having dinner around a table, guinea pigs playing a cricket match, or raccoons playing cards. Apparently it became a lot more popular after the Great Exhibition in 1851, where they had a display of hedgehogs. Personally, I'm not a fan. Find it a little bit creepy looking. Kind of creeps me out a bit. But, you know, each to their own. Little bit of sauciness. Pornography has been around for a long time. Whether it was written or picture, the Victorian gentleman wanted it. Under-the-counter magazines such as The Pearl and Oyster, they were non-pictorial, so a lot tamer, along with a lot of other books as well. They were written rather than pictures, so it was all left to the imagination. But then, with the marvels of modern technology, cameras came, and so did the pictures. And then not quite so much imagination was needed. Cabinet of Curiosities. As with the taxidermy, collection cabinets of curiosities were a big thing. Odd things created and popped into bell jars and displays to be viewed and awed with amazement. These smaller displays were then created into full rooms from top to bottom oddities. This was obviously not a brand new concept, but it was definitely a lot more popular at the time. Hypnotism. This was a fascination, and it probably still is today really. Although men acting like chickens or monkeys on stage seems a bit beneath them, they went for more intense things, making the subject impervious to pain. And one way of proving it was to put pins into their hands and through their arms and in their legs, and not sure I really fancy trying that. Mourning. Now this is a bit of an odd one to class as fun, but they did kind of make it into a little bit of a sport. The life expectancy of folks wasn't too top-notch back then, with illnesses, poor sanitation, adulterated food, and dodgy clothes. Been there, haven't we? And once again, Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria made mourning popular after Prince Albert passed away. A whole array of businesses popped up offering everything you could possibly need. Stationery, clothing, funeral biscuits, jewellery, and more. You name it, they probably had it. It was a bit like a sport, and in some cases they were just trying to outdo each other. Mummy rolling. Now, mummy rolling isn't just kind of getting mum and rolling her down a hill. It was a little bit more Egyptian than that. As we discussed in the previous video, the Victorians were obsessed with ancient Egypt. I can see why. I love ancient Egypt. That's going to be a future video, I think. Now these tended to be public viewings rather than in your own house. It was normal that lecturers and experts were set up and allow huge amounts of people coming to view as they cut into and unwrapped the mummies. Travellers would buy mummies and bring them back from Egypt, and it got so popular that people started to think maybe these were actually being made to order from poor people and beggars on the street, which isn't a good thing really. Seances. Now this was the most popular out of all of the hobbies the Victorians had. They were obsessed with death and obsessed with wanting to know what was on the other side. Mediums, mainly women, as they were thought to be more adept to these situations, performed seances to contact those from the other side. It was often whole families that would sit round a table and try and contact dear old Grandad that had already passed. There was also Ouija boards and automatic writing, all revolving around the seance thing. So all in all, that's a big mishmash of things that the Victorians loved to do. And that's all without the internet or mobile phones or even electricity. That's not bad going.